think we're going to go to Arizona for the weekend. It
Did
might
you
be,
get one of those cheap
it might be
flights?
cooler there.
I think I'm going later this year. I think we got flights for $34.
Wow, that's fantastic.
You're kidding.
And it includes a seat and everything.
Hi, Sylvia.
Oh, there. Okay, now I'm unmuted. Hi, everybody.
So I go to Maine every summer for a couple of weeks. That's where I'm from originally. And I thought my sister's extra car was going to be in a repair shop and I wouldn't be able to use it. So I looked at renting a car for 17 days. It was like $2,300.
Yeah, I hear it's nuts everywhere.
You know,
Yeah,
all the smaller airports are like that.
And even
know.
if you have one rented, when you get there, many times there isn't one for you. I've heard that.
Well, as it turned out, my sister got her car fixed. So I'm okay.
Yeah, I heard that even like in Hawaii, people were renting U-Hauls to use for like a truck and everything else. There's just no stock.
Actually, I looked into that in Bangor, Maine about renting a U-Haul.
We're going to Italy to see our daughter, but our son-in-law will be gone. So we've got a car to use. And that will be very helpful.
Yeah.
So Mary, I show 4:30, but I only show technically 4, not our 4.5 right now.
4:30.
I think it's 5:30.
Or 5:30. I'm sorry, I said 4:30. I had 4 in my brain as far as the number of board members present.
I think we're good.
Okay.
And we have our youth council person too.
Okay, so if that qualifies us, then 5:30 p.m. we'll call the meeting to order. And no Alan, no Susan, no Fred. I'm assuming Tiffany is a youth council. I don't think I've met Tiffany yet.
Tiffany's doing our presentation for the
gotcha.
ARPA funds. So.
Gotcha.
Even though she is quite young looking.
I missed that over on the side. Sorry about that, Tiffany. And we got Ariana here and Councilmember Farber. So with that being said, has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from May? And if so, I would entertain a motion.
I entertain to accept the minutes as written.
I second, and boy, they are detailed.
Yeah, real good.
Oh, great. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none. Unanimous approval streak continues. Nice work. Nikki, any public comment tonight?
I did not receive any public comment.
Awesome. Thank you. Rolling right on through. And now we will hear from Tiffany and the ARPA funding plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tiffany Spear. I'm the Long Range and Strategic Planning Manager for the City of Lakewood. And this is a somewhat unusual request, and I thank you for letting me come to your meeting to do this presentation. But ARPA is what we're calling the American Rescue Plan Act. And as you may be aware, President Biden signed the act a few months ago. It's somewhat similar to the CARES Act from last year, the Coronavirus Relief Fund Act that was passed. But with this year's act, there were dollars specifically set aside at the federal, state, and local levels, and a certain amount was actually allocated to the city of Lakewood. And so what the City Council has asked that we do is reach out to the public, and we're taking advantage of our boards and commissions to do this as well, to get people's perspective on how the dollars that the city will be receiving should be spent. So I'm going to walk you through a pretty high-level presentation that explains what ARPA is about and how you can spend those dollars. And then it's really a free-form discussion with you. And by all means, if you happen to have a light bulb go on over your head over the next few days where you think, oh, maybe this was a good idea that I didn't mention Tuesday night, please feel free to contact me directly or reach out to Mary Dodsworth or Nikki York and pass those ideas along. So with that, I'm going to get going on this. I will just start to breeze through it. So if at any point I get going too fast, or if you have a question, please do let me know. So again, the American Rescue Plan Act is what it's called. ARPA is the acronym that we're all using to say that in a shorter way. This graphic is just trying to summarize for you how much money went in different buckets at the local and state government levels. So there was a total of $362 billion provided to state and local funds for what they're calling fiscal recovery. States got a certain amount, local governments got a certain amount, and then within the local government bracket, depending on the size of the jurisdiction, there were, again, littler buckets. So we at the City of Lakewood are over 50,000 in population, so we're termed a metropolitan city. And as you'll see here on the left, the total amount that the City of Lakewood will be allocated through this act is almost 14 million, about $13.77 million. Those dollars are divided in half. So this year there is the opportunity to request almost 7 million, and then 365 days after that money is received, the city can ask for the other half. Within the timing structure for this, it's actually not something that was really fast or intended to be spent very quickly. Last year with the coronavirus relief funds, the idea was to get the money out the door as soon as possible to those that needed it, whether they be residents needing assistance to keep their housing because they'd lost their job due to COVID, or whether it was businesses who had lost business because things were closed down. This is a longer term act. The intention is that local governments will identify how they want to spend the funds no later than the end of 2024. So there's actually quite a bit of time to deliberate and figure this out, but also have it all spent by the end of 2026. So this is a 4.5, 5-year program. And in addition to the money that you see on this slide, where the state and local levels are broken out, there was also significant money allocated directly to the federal government agencies that deal with housing and with social services, as well as with health issues, because again, because there'd been a little more time between when the COVID pandemic began and when this act was passed, there was more thinking along the lines of certain governments will do certain things. And so when you get down to the local level, there's now the ability to rely on state and federal level taking care of, for instance, rental assistance, mortgage assistance, and some of the other business guidance that will be needed over the next coming years to restore our economy. So speaking about that, the federal level included it included $37.5 billion at the federal level to go directly to homeowners, renters, and individuals experiencing homelessness. The 21.6 billion went to emergency rental assistance. There was 10 billion that went to homeowner assistance funds. So this is for mortgage assistance as well. And then there was 5 billion that went to those experiencing homelessness. At the state level, there's going to be a discussion again for the next 2-year budget, but for the one that dates from 2021 through summer 2023, the state has allocated $658 million for rental assistance, $187 million for mortgage assistance, and then you'll see a number of other things where the state has allocated funds. So again, comparing it to last year's process, the city had to try to pick up and help in all of these various categories that now the federal and state government are taking care of. And so what does that translate into for the local governments? Pierce County has made an initial decision on how to spend about 30 of the $80 million that it has this year. And so you'll see, again, food banks, so food, financial coaching, affordable housing, homelessness and comprehensive life resources, youth diversion and summer programs are all being funded. And then you'll also see entrepreneurship and technical assistance grants, business assistance, and workforce development. So all of these things are there for the City of Lakewood to either say, yes, we know that this is a need, but look, Pierce County's already handled it, or yes, we know this is a need, and maybe we want to partner with the county to assist with some of these things and leverage our dollars to get a bigger result. So once again, when we're talking about the City of Lakewood, 13.76 million, half and half, use it by the, or excuse me, commit it by the end of 24 and exhaust it by the end of 26. So all of that is very quickly voiced background to what I'm asking you to react to and maybe provide some feedback to me and to Mary tonight. There are 4 buckets, I keep using that term, but 4 categories that you can allocate the money toward as a local jurisdiction. So the city of Lakewood could use some of its opera dollars, or all of it for that matter, in any one of these categories. The first is responding to negative economic impacts, including assistance to households, small businesses, nonprofits, and then also the industries that were impacted particularly hard, such as tourism, travel, and hospitality. There could be dollars allocated toward essential workers. So if there happen to be eligible workers within the city of Lakewood making below premium pay, and they are doing those high risk to their health positions. Third, there could be it's called just the provision of government services. So to the extent of reduction in revenue of the city. And because of what happened last year, as you can imagine, the tax revenue for the city of Lakewood dropped. And so the process is going to be done here shortly by our finance department to figure out exactly how much there was a reduction in revenue, not only for 2020 though. ARPA will allow the city to calculate the losses in revenue because of the slowdown in the economy for the years 2021, 22, and 23 as well. So as time goes by, the city will be able to identify what revenues it would have gotten but for COVID, whether it's tax revenue or property transactions, that sort of thing, and then figure out how ARPA money might be allocated to refill those losses. And then the fourth category is to make necessary investments in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. So this can be the replacement of the expanding capacity of water lines, sewer lines in the city, or maybe bringing broadband to everywhere in the city if it's not already there. So for some jurisdictions, this makes more sense. Lakewood, we're trying to figure out if there's really any projects that this makes sense to spend funding on. But again, we're here to hear whatever you think are the good ideas this evening. In March, the City Council held an initial retreat where they talked about ARPA and came up with several policy positions that we're all operating under. First of all, ARPA is intended for one-time costs, meaning this isn't let's establish a program or let's hire staff that are going to need funding ad infinitum for forever and ever, amen. This is one-time cost. Also, again, that recognition that there is time to identify how to spend these funds for best results for the city and its residents. And that is why we're doing this community outreach. And the third piece was that they wanted to set aside 1% for each year of those dollars. So about $70,000 a year from these funds to go directly to the Community Services Advisory Board for decision on how to use on human services. They already receive funding through the city's general fund. The idea here is for these next 2 years, 22 and 23, they would be receiving the additional funds out of the ARPA tranches. So you're thinking, what the heck? Why are you talking to the park board? There's a lot of different ways to spend this money. And I'm just listing here very quickly some of the ideas that the city council already came up with. I mentioned the use for Community Services Advisory Board items. Expanding the Human Services Program is another one the city council identified. Establishing a youth employment program. And the idea there was grabbed onto by a number of the council members, and they mentioned specifically employers like Lakewood Gardens. Maybe there's other types of open space parks type of work where youth could be brought in. Again, human services and rental or mortgage assistance, supplementing what's already happening at the federal and state level. And then just different types of support for Lakewood businesses, making sure that they're able to navigate all of this, how do I get funds in order to stay in business type of question. Same thing for residents. How do I access the utility, rental, mortgage assistance, or other employment opportunities that might be popping up? Lakewood cultural businesses, arts and entertainment venues, and other non-governmental organizations. Is there a way the city can help those businesses out? So think the Lakewood Historical Society, perhaps the Lakewood Theater, the other arts and entertainment venues that have been shuttered for a while now. housing issues, affordable housing for those living or renting in the city, building more capacity, new houses, doing some things for city facilities also. So maybe a city reader board where people can see what's happening, what are upcoming events or meetings, looking at the city's website and figuring out how it can be more accessible to everybody in the city. Maybe it's multilingual now. Maybe there's a way to access it with live chat. Bringing HVAC systems at the city facilities up to standard with ways to keep the air flow safe for those that are in those buildings over time. Installing security cameras in high crime areas. I don't know if that might translate into some parks. Providing Wi-Fi access throughout the city. And then one thing that was actually specifically mentioned for parks was making sure there's the ability for hand washing at all of the parks facilities. I won't read all of this. There's a lot there. In essence, the Act also assumes and encourages some extra use of funds in what are called the hardest hit communities. And this is ranging in everything from healthcare that they may need to additional work and investment in housing, educational services. So one of the things that Ms. Dodsworth actually just spoke to the council about recently was a partnership for Warriors for Change with the Clover Park School District this summer. So helping kids get ready for graduation and moving into the world of employment. And then providing healthy childhood environments too. Here's a map of a portion of Lakewood. These areas in purple are actually areas that are considered the hardest hit qualified census tracts. So Tillicum and Woodbrook, Springbrook, Lakeview, and then part of Monte Vista. So all of these areas are places where money could be spent and assumed easier to be eligible under ARPA, if that makes sense. So if there's any parks, facilities, or open space or activity things within these areas of the city that you think may need some additional attention, maybe that's an idea. So here we are. What do you think that the ARPA fund should be spent on? And the question here is not intended to you as an entire board unless you want to do it that way. This is asking you as individuals what you think are good ideas for how these funds could be spent. It could be people need help keeping their house. It could be that's being taken care of by the feds, so let's do something else with the money. It could be let's focus on how people have been cooped up in their houses for the last year and a half. How can we get them back outside to take advantage of our facilities? So we're just trying to get as much ideas as we can out of you, either today live or over the next couple of weeks, if you come up with anything in writing.
Tiffany, Mike Lackady here. I have a couple of thoughts. First off, all that's going to be paid for by our citizens. So this is money out of all of our pockets. That's where it's eventually going to come from. And I don't know if it's allowed to do this or if you can do this or not, but is there a possibility of getting a task force where you get somebody from each one of the city organizations, the community, forums and boards and whatever, and get together, since this is a long-term effort? No decision has to be made in 6 months, but I think we need as much of our citizen input as possible. And I was just thinking, somebody from our board, somebody from the Human Resources Board, all these different things that the city has, get together and work on it for some time and come up with recommendations from the city. That's my thought.
Okay, thank you.
Sylvia, Vito, anything to add?
One thought is we really need to know, like for revenue for parks, how much of a hit did we take last year, and what's the process? How do we help? I know you balanced the budget, Mary, but at the same time, we depend on revenue, and we didn't have a lot of events in 20. We're still not having a lot of events that generate revenue. Where are we sitting for 21? And then what is that loss? And can these funds be used to help offset that? That's just one area. I like all those categories. I think they're all valid, but we need to have more information to support where we're going to take it one direction or another.
Okay.
And I'll just follow up with you, Vito, on that. We've provided Ta Kraus, who's our finance director, who's super smart, a lot of that information on loss of revenue, but also there was reduction in expenditure as well because we didn't have to, do some of the things that we planned to do. So we've given her that information, and she's got that's just one piece of the whole package. So she'll be working on all of those things.
Thank you.
And so Tiffany, kind of my thoughts are is I'm going to be a little biased here. I am a parks guy and you're at a parks board, so be prepared for that. But
Yeah.
On a certain level, generally speaking, and kind of the presentation, I concur with Vito. I think there's more facts that are needed to support the decisions we're going to make. And so we've got time, and this is just the very infancy of the process. And so, more to come and more data to prove and why we're making the decisions we're making. But, for me, the city of Lakewood has an opportunity here to take care of the city of Lakewood. So many times cities struggle to fund things and have different things. And so 100%, I agree with restoring the revenues and that loss of generation first and foremost is one of the big ones. I think parks at times is, there's no legal mandate for parks or parks department or parks board, but I think coming out of this pandemic, it truly showed that parks aren't optional anymore. Parks are necessary. They are an essential service that governments provide, and there needs to be more support of them. They're as essential as the roadway that transports people to and from their home to work or whatever business or commerce they're uptaking. And so that viability in parks is huge. I'm researching and we're working on this in Federal Way as well, and still trying to get answers on whatever you can really spend the money. And I know more to come on that. But you showed 3 census areas where there's definitely some underserved and some big need. And from my knowledge and working with the parks, those are also underserved park areas. And so if we can, a real lofty goal would be can you find parcels of property or something in that location to, help us fulfill our mission of our master plan, and that's getting, recreation space within a mile walking distance of everybody. That may be a little shorter now. I'm dating myself because it's moved, but essentially, if you had those opportunities, I think. Sorry, hit the mute button. I definitely, concerns over the homeless and human services, those are all been underfunded needs and showing the community's been showing a big need for those types of services. But again, agreed, we don't want to duplicate services. And so that's my overarching 30,000 foot view, but definitely parks and parks are not optional anymore. They're required. And if we can make some investments in our parks and open space properties with this ARPA money, I would strongly advocate for that, Tiffany.
All right, thank you. Mary, I don't know if you've shared with them. I'm sorry, go ahead, Sylvia.
Well, obviously as a parks person, parks are high on my priority list, but it would be nice to know, we've all been hearing that there's going to be this huge issue with people who have been deferring their home payments and all of a sudden are going to face foreclosure. And of course, the food insecurity. And what we don't really know as we're making these decisions is how much of that is being covered by somebody else. Are the feds covering that? Are nonprofits covering that? I mean, is that being covered? Because, you think the old Maslow hierarchy of needs, we need to make sure that people are housed and fed first, and then we move up the pyramid. And at this point, we really don't know how much of that is being taken care of by somebody else. And once we would know that, it would be easier to make a decision.
Okay, that's fair. What I can do is provide some follow-up information to you as a board. And then again, because we're not necessarily needing this to come back as a board response, it can be you as individuals. I'm happy to send it on to Mary and she can circulate, or Nikki can circulate it to you all, and you're welcome to just reply back and explain once you have a little more facts under your belt what you're thinking. I will say that the federal and state and county level are all talking about housing and food. And there is also an understanding that there's going to need to be a lot of support for people who are at risk of either losing their rental or their owned home. And so there's navigator programs being set up where people are there to answer questions of those who don't know where to go get the funds that they may qualify for. So all of those things are happening, and I'm happy to provide you with some more details about that. And then Mary, I was just going to mention the City Council, for all of you, actually had an initial discussion either Monday night or last Monday, sorry, about the potential to create a downtown park. So if you'll recall, maybe a couple of years ago, there was a sub-area plan adopted, and one of the things that was in it was a central park. And the council is now taking that seriously. So you'll hear lots more about that, I'm sure, as we go forward. But that's one park that they are talking about right now. And then I'll go back and look at the legacy plan and see what is within those hardest hit community areas of the city and see if there's something that might be talked about there too. All right. Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate the ability to talk to you here as part of your meeting. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you,
Thank you.
Tiffany. Awesome. With that, we've got another meeting in, I think, about 6 or 7 days, a joint meeting with the council. And so we're going to get prepared for that. I know Mary and Nikki provided us with kind of our significant accomplishments that were listed on there. I'll let you take it from there, Mary.
Sure. So Nikki, do you have that document available we could put up on the screen? You guys have all been around the block for a while, so you're not new. You know that we meet with our council once a month, and once a year, and it's a good opportunity for them to touch base. Of course, they've approved your work program in January, and so they're aware of all the projects and the topics that you're planning to work on this year. And then, but it is a good opportunity just to touch base on, how you're doing, what you're working on, if there's a project coming up that you might need some clarification on or get some better direction before. It's also a good time to ask questions. So at our last, maybe scroll that up a little bit, Nikki. This is the standard format that is used for all the different advisory boards. And so Nikki's put together a review of all the topics that we've had for the last year. So they'll see what our accomplishments are. Oftentimes you as a board are reviewing master plans, getting updates on projects and providing feedback and approving things and sending them forward. You've also had some special presentations on different topics, and you've provided good feedback or responses regarding those. So they'll be able to see all of those things that you worked on. And then in the work program itself, these were some of the bigger items that we talked about. One is the Fort Steilacoom boundary line adjustment. And that's still a work in progress. We'll be doing a capital project update next month for you. So you'll get a good summary of all the capital projects on where we're at. Then we actually are hiring a new DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion staff person for the city of Lakewood. So that'll probably come a little bit later this fall, and just really have, I think the focus of this staff is really going to be focused on internal operations, but also connecting with our partners. The school district and both community colleges have really wonderful staff. And so how all these groups can work together, and then how we can support them and how that can support our community. So we're excited about that. We talked about our outdoor adventure programming earlier this year. We'll also give you more of an update when I do my director's report, and then how we'll be doing that starting next year. Of course, it's our anniversary, yay! And we'll do special event and program update later this year. And then we already talked about park codes. We did do an assessment of vehicles on trails, and so that was earlier in the year. So that was part of our work program too. So they'll see all of this. And then in our meeting minutes, we actually had a summary, and Nikki, you're just right on top of it. We talked a little bit about what you might want to do there, and we brainstormed lots of different ideas. And so one of the first things that we did, first of all, the meeting's a little bit scripted. Jason typically introduces everybody, and he talks a little bit about the work program. And typically Vito, as your vice chair, co-chair, has talked about some other things. And then we've asked questions. one of the things that we talked about, getting some feedback, and I think it's a great icebreaker, is having each council member just say which is their favorite park and why. And it's just a good way for you to learn a little bit about the council members, and also for them to be thinking about that in advance. And then we also talked about, Jason, you talked a little bit about revenue sources, how we might generate revenue to bolster parks, and whether that's development or even looking at operations for just ongoing maintenance and operations to be able to keep up with all the people that are in our parks. I got to tell you, it's been a rough summer already.
Yeah.
And then let's see, we've talked about thoughts regarding the Chambers Creek Canyon Trail. And Sylvia had some feedback on that. And Mike, you're the one that I think, Michael, you kind of came up with that icebreaker, and I think that would be really fun to do. And then just talking about parks in general and how we see those happening in the future. The one thing that we forgot to add to this, but you guys talked about wanting to talk about, was the park sign project. You had provided a recommendation to council. We brought that back last meeting and had a more detailed conversation. Councilmember Farmer provided some insight regarding council's comments, and the board said they could understand, where council is going with that. So what's next? How that might work? We do have park signs as part of our work program for capital projects. So, where do we go from here? We start over? Is it going to be more of a citywide project? Park signs are just one way of identifying city resources. And so are we looking at something bigger than just park signs, where that might be one part of it? So you talked about maybe getting a little bit more clarification on that. So those are all the things that we talked about. We're happy to help write some notes up for you. Just let us know kind of maybe how you want to structure that and format that, and what order you might want to go in, who might want to say what, and then we'll go from there. And it will be a Zoom meeting. It'll be their final Zoom meeting. They're going to be open back for business in July. Excuse me. And so sometimes that's harder to do in this format, but we'll do our best.
Yeah, and that was last year. It felt like it was short, not a lot of questions, and so yeah, it was definitely less personal. I'm just curious from the other board members. I think before I get into the accomplishments, it would be nice to have that icebreaker first and ask that question first, just before we get into our normal program. The board would like to ask this, and I'm happy to do that unless someone else wants to.
And that's next Monday, right?
That's fine. I think that's a good idea. Is it too soon to ask them what their thoughts are on a central park?
I think
That's the first I heard of it. So
yeah, I would say the council's just talked about that, and it's at the really 10,000-foot level. And so I would say wait till we bring something to the board for you guys to provide some input, or we can send that to council that you're interested in learning more about that. But it's still pretty at the infancy level right now. Council's just said we think it's important, and there's more study to do just to even bring site location options back. So
yes, please.
Yeah.
we're still a little scattered in our thoughts. So yeah, still seeking more information. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah.
Sounds like we'll start with the icebreaker, and then after we hear from everybody, I'm assuming the board will share their favorite park and why, and then I can go into accomplishments, and then Vito, you would normally take on work plan.
I'm going to have to be excused because I'm going to be in Eastern Washington, which is going to be hotter than you know what, but I'm not going to be able to make it.
Okay. Yep. Nope. Fair enough. If there's anyone else that wants to take it on, let me know. Otherwise, I can roll through. We can reach out to Alan or Susan. Who else we got? It might be a little early for Fred to chime in that way. So, and then we'll just kind of then go through and ask questions. I know in the past, Mary, you have kind of written up the questions for us. But I mean, I've kind of made bullet notes. It's just whether or not everyone else kind of wants a little script that Mary sends out. I know in the past it has been helpful. I don't want to create any major additional work for you though. because like I say, I've got bullet points, and what you've provided is a pretty good base. You're muted, Sylvia.
Yes, it's helpful. I appreciate that.
Okay. I think it definitely, one of the questions with ARPA and that, I think that's a good one to bring up. And the last thing I was thinking about in regards to the meeting, Mary, is I've been collecting kind of just articles I've been finding that support, the argument of how valuable parks have become in the pandemic. And the argument, and hence my reading those articles is help driving me. But would it be beneficial if I sent those to council in advance, or would I send them to you in advance and you would forward them to council? Which do you think would be a better route?
No, I think if something's coming, if the board, this is a board presentation, so if the board decides that's something that they think would be helpful, then I would route that through your staff. We'd be happy to consolidate those and send those out in advance. And also, if we're going to start with that idea, we could give that a heads up to the council so that they're prepared to think. They're not just having to, think off the cuff. They could really think about, which is their favorite park and why, or more than one, right? Many parks have different purposes. So, but yeah, if you think that, if the board thinks that's a good idea, and it's something that we can consolidate, we'd send that through from staff,
and
through the city manager.
Okay, and so my intent then would be is I will try to generate those in an email to Mary. I think there's 2 or 3 of them that I have that would be beneficial. She'll forward them to the rest of the board. That way I don't violate a Public Meetings Act or anything like that. You can review them as long as you don't have any major problem with them, which I don't think you will. They're very pro parks and supportive, and talks about, the COVID impacts on parks and that, increased use and maintenance and all that. So that way you can at least see them. Yes.
I think that would be incredible for the council to read that background. And I think it's something we instinctively think of, but I love the idea of being able to read research and seeing what the committee will provide. So that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you, Linda. And so, okay, so fair enough. Yeah, I don't think we need to deviate too much, Mary. And so, our pretty much our system is there. And I think just dusting this one off and adding those few questions or those question topics to the bottom, and hopefully that can be done rather quick, rather easily, and not a lot of work on you guys. So.
Okay.
Any other discussion on the joint meeting?
No.
I'll have one other comment. I don't know if you'd sent them out, Nikki, but just because Alan and Susan and Fred aren't here, I'm thinking, and normally you do, you'll send out an appointment for that one.
Yes, I will.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Then that to me would be the reminder to them that we've got a meeting next week, and we know Vito won't be there. And with that being said, I think that rolls us to the director's report, Mary.
All right, thank you so much. I am going to share my screen, and I'm hoping you can all see it. Can you see that?
Yes, good.
Great. So just a real quick summary of some of the things that are going on, and I'm going to give you, it says capital comprehensive review in June. That's actually going to be July. So I'm going to change that for you because we're going to be doing that at our next park board meeting. I'm going to be giving council capital project update in a couple of weeks. And so I typically share that with you right after. So that'll be really nice. You'll be able to get a little more detail on all of the projects, and I'll send that in advance. But just for Springbrook Park expansion, we are hoping to go into construction in September as soon as summer's over. And so that's going along quite well. It's been a crazy couple of weeks. So, but we have Bruce Dees working on that with us. Both gateways are done at the industrial park area and over by Camp Murray, if you know where that entrance is. And so those are done. They're not, the washout is actually doing all the irrigation and landscaping. And so that won't happen until the fall. They couldn't get their electrical stuff and stuff moved in time. So it's too hot, of course, to plant those. So they're going to be doing that in the fall. They're building the bridge that's going to be over at Chambers Creek Canyon. That should get installed starting in August. They have a little bit of a window that they have to work through, and so that's happening. Harry Todd Park is, 98.3% done. The only thing that we're finishing is they're finishing up the installation of the playground right now. But the one thing that we've been waiting on, and it was a materials things, is that we have the big switchback going ADA pathway, and we don't have the ADA handrails on there. And so we couldn't, and we worked with WCIA because I thought, let's get this place open. We can't, without that being such a significant piece of it, the ADA access, we can't open it. Well, it's been 90 degrees out, right, for 2 weeks. And so people are going crazy over there trying to get into the park. So we're really, 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 really hoping we can get it done by this weekend. And if not, for sure, we'll be done by the 4th of July weekend. So, and we just decided today that we're going to be doing the grand opening celebration on National Night Out, which is August 3rd. It's Tuesday, August 3rd. So we'll send you some introductions on that. But we thought that'd be a great way to celebrate the park and reintroduce it to the neighbors. And so that'll be coming up. We'll give you some more information on that August 3rd. Because that's a pretty big accomplishment. That's like a $3-point-something million project. That's a pretty big improvement for that area. Angle Lane, again, that project's done. The bathroom's open. We are really working on being patient, waiting for the Nisquallies to provide the benches and the seating areas. And then we're going to be building those kiosks soon with some trail maps and some trailhead information. We'll go back to the drawing board on the park sign. We'll get some direction from that. I think you guys had some good feedback. Our council representative had some good feedback. And so I think we just want to get clarity from the council so that we can move forward with that. And decide how we're going to solve that problem. Not solve the problem, but figure it out so that we can get some park signs made. The pavilion is substantially complete, and we're going to be open for business in 1st of July. We've got lots of day camps happening in there. We've got some special events already, people wanting to do special events in there. Like any project, we'll be just continuing tweaking that, adding some, design elements and some things to make it a little prettier, but functionally it's all working just fine. Sealy Lake, we had a presentation on that last month, I believe, and we're working on getting construction drawings to really make that trailhead something new and improved to make it safer and feel better. And then a lot of the stuff on the inside we'll be doing with Pierce County staff. The Service Club sign's complete. I don't know if you've noticed that over there off of Bridgeport, but I think it looks really good. And we already have the Lions Club. They donated $3,000 for a summer program, so they got a big check like Publishers Clearinghouse. They're going to take their picture in front of it and share that with the community, and we're thankful for them and their support. So the American Lake Shelters, that's done, and Nikki's already booking up for groups. And then our All Abilities Playground is really done and open. There's actually some ramping that we're doing we have to fix, but that's really just like pulling out a concrete panel and putting a new one in, but the playground itself is done, and it's really nice. If you haven't been in there, we have wood chips on most of our playgrounds, and this is, that spongy poured in place. It's our first attempt to have that, and it's really expensive, but it really does make it accessible, and it's a really got some cool elements to it. So hopefully you'll get down there and play. Vito's nodding his head. Have you gone there to play?
I took the kids there a couple weeks ago, and of course it was still fenced off, so it'll be good to go back.
Oh yeah, good. Thank you for staying out of there while it was fenced off. Not everybody follows the rules around here, so thank you for that. And then, we were very successful in our grants this year, so we'll be adding those to our capital project and moving forward with those starting this fall. So No Child Left Inside, that was a grant that we applied for. I think this board provided input and a letter of recommendation, 3 or 4 months ago. So we were successful in getting that grant. And the idea is that we're going to be doing a special event every month starting January of 2022. And it'll be like once a month, outdoor day. We're going to look at orienteering and camping and photography, nature arts, environmental information, maybe a fishing event, non-motorized water sports, learning about canoeing and kayaking and all those fun things. So we're really excited about that. And that'll help us really make it no cost for folks. And then everybody will have access. And, you know, the perfect place to do that is Fort Steilacoom, but a lot of kids may not have the ability to get there. And so the idea is we may be taking some of these programs out to our other park sites, like we're doing our summer program, so that we can make it more accessible to those that might have transportation or other kinds of barriers. So we're really looking forward to that. And the Kids Need Play summer program, that is actually, we're using ARPA funds from the county. I think Tiffany talked to you about that the county has received a bunch of money and they're already programming those resources. And so the city has the opportunity to partner with them on special projects and activities. Well, we jumped right on that bandwagon, and they have money for youth programs in the summer. So we're providing like 80% discounts for kids, so they can do these STEM camps that are, you know, robotics and sports and Legos and animation and all kinds of really cool things, yoga. I mean, all kinds of really cool projects. So, so we're thankful for that support, and again, partnering with the county, we're happy to facilitate those discounts so that everybody wins. Hopefully you've been to the farmers market, and if you haven't, it started May 21st. It's on Fridays down at Fort Steilacoom Park, and it is just going like gangbusters. You know, last year was a big increase, and it was, you know, COVID. Everybody was excited to get out of their house. We were doing all things different every week because of COVID rules and safety. And this year we are, of course, still safe, but we had a 52% increase this year in sales from last year. And last year was a big increase from the year before. And the next week we had like a 48% increase in sales. So you can see people are coming. We've got big overflow parking areas now. The vendors are making money. There's over 20 food trucks. So if you want something for dinner on Friday night, you'll find it there, from, you know, my husband who likes to eat kettle corn for dinner to somebody that might want like some barbecue. So there's a little bit of everything for everybody.
I really like the afternoon, evening, so that working people can participate. I think that's great.
Yeah, that has been a really, obviously, people are appreciating those times as well. And it's supposed to end at 6:30, but I got to tell you, I've been there at 6:30 and the cars are still coming. So people are really enjoying that. And yeah, so come on down. The last 2 weeks the weather's been a little bit chillier and a little windier on Fridays, but again, still doing really, really well. And then also we received a $20,000 grant from the Department of Agriculture through the state. And it was really a grant to offset some of the impacts due to COVID last year. You know, last year we had all kinds of new safety protocols. We were changing the layout every other week. We couldn't use volunteers because of, you know, COVID safety. So there were staffing issues. It was all hands on deck. We weren't hiring seasonals because of revenue shortages. So all of our staff was down there, traffic control and setting up tents and handing stuff out. So anyway, so we were glad to receive that. And we're going to be utilizing that year just for extra promotion and things, because the crowds are much larger this year. You know, we talked about human services. Our human service staff works with so many different partners. And I just wanted to share that we have done several employment and resource fairs. And it's really been an experience because all the partners have come out and we're knocking on doors and providing, you know, free lunch and incentives to come. And the participation has been very, very slow. And it's growing a little bit in Springbrook, but it was really underwhelming in Tillicum. And we know that, you know, you could throw a lot of money at issues, but for people that they want to, you know, get out of the poverty cycle and to not become homeless, is they have to be able to pay their rent and pay for their bills and do their jobs. So having living wage jobs is really important. And we have a lot of partners in our community to help do that. We've got 2 awesome community colleges and lots of different resources. So we're working on that, but it's about really developing the relationships with folks and developing trust, you know, coming out to an activity. So anyway, we're working on that, and it's a work in progress, but we have great people working on that. And that is a way that we believe, you know, we do a lot of homelessness prevention. And so in Lakewood, and we have a lot of partners that help with that. So, you know, like Sylvia had mentioned, food instability. We have resources for all kinds of support services to help people from becoming homeless. And so that's kind of our goal in the area that we work in Parks and Recreation. I just want to give you a heads up that the individual, you guys worked on the application and the process for naming city facilities, and so we'll have our first application for you to review next month. The individual submitted a supplemental application. It came in too late for us to prepare it for this month, but he initially wanted to name the Colonial Plaza after Claudia Thomas, Dr. Claudia Thomas, because he was thinking it was going to be closed off and sort of be a gathering space all the time. When he saw that it's a road that can be closed off for events, that sort of changed his position. So now he's decided that he would like to change the name of Fort Steilacoom Park to after Dr. Claudia Thomas. So that's something for you to consider. He's also thought about possibly looking at the plaza at City Hall because it's really representing her civic work. And so what about the possibility of maybe naming the plaza at Lakewood City Hall, you know, Claudia Thomas Plaza or the Unity Plaza? Claudia Thomas was all about bringing, you know, the unity and community. That was her big thing. And she experienced discrimination when she first moved to Lakewood, and it was quite an exclusive community. At least that was her perception. And so she really wanted to make the community more open to all. So you'll hear that from his voice. Mr. Boyd will be sharing that next month, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. You'll have it in your packet, and we'll put some additional materials together. But anyway, so those are some big suggestions for our first process. So just be ready to have that conversation. One of the things that Michael Lackady, you said last month is that you really think it's important for us to do outreach in the community. So if we're ever going to change the name of something, that we should let people know. And that was something that you'd mentioned. So the idea is whether we, you know, put something in the Sub-Times or we promote it before or we promote it after, we'll want to talk about that as part of the process. So. And then just a lot of meetings and planning for all the fun stuff that we're working on. That's happening. So you can read my community outreach stuff. We're always out there doing our part. I want to let you know I did a presentation for the Kiwanis Club on the 25th anniversary, and one of our own, Sylvia Allen, won a prize. We did a drawing. It wasn't rigged, and she won some 25th anniversary swag. So congratulations, Sylvia. And then just to show you, coming up here, we have next month, we'll be doing our park CIP update. We'll be possibly talking about these two park sites maybe in more detail, but it'll be part of our park CIP update in July. We typically don't meet in August. Sometimes we have a social event. We didn't last year because of COVID, but we could talk about that too. And then we've got some other things happening throughout the year. I just want to note here that our drive-in movies, we had to cancel our first drive-in movie because of weather. It was very windy and stormy, except for it was actually gorgeous and beautiful. You know, you have to cancel it early to get the word out. But it was gorgeous and beautiful at 7 when the movie was, we were starting to line people up. But about 8:30, right when the movie was going to start, it was monsooning. I was really thankful so that people weren't upset that we canceled the movie, but Washington weather. But our next movie's here coming up soon. And then we'll have the concert starting in July at the Pavilion on Thursday nights. And then lots of other stuff happening throughout the year. So that is my report. Do you guys have any questions?
That's a good update, Mary. Thanks.
Yeah, busier than ever, it seems like. I don't know how that gets possible, but somehow you pull it off, Mary. Nice work. With that, we'll roll to board member comments. Any board member comments? I just had one question, Mary. Was the gateway sign at Gravely and Nyanza removed as part of the project, or was it hit?
No, it looked like it was awfully nice. They don't usually hit it that straight.
Yeah,
But
right.
yes, it was removed, and that was actually my favorite of all the gateway signs. And so I was sad to see that go. But you know, I think when it was one of our first ones, and so we weren't really aware that that was going to all be happening there when it was designed. So they saved the sign itself so that when and if we either use it at a different gateway or if they, you know, redo some things there, it's going to be a traffic circle. Yeah. We can redo that. So, and we were able to salvage a bunch of plants there too for other park sites. So.
Yeah, no, perfect. It was there this morning and then gone this afternoon. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Jason. Jason, I have a comment.
Sure.
It's really nice, the planting that was done. It's like a meadow mix right in front of the new restroom building, Mary. and it's in flower right now. And if you guys haven't been out there, you need to go out there and look at it.
Mhm.
I'm sure it attracts a lot of insects and birds, and it looks great. Really
Good.
looks good.
You know, a gentleman that worked with us, Doug Frazier, you probably worked with him, Vito, when you were working
sure.
for Pierce County. I'm going to see if I have that picture. We kind of took a little picture for him before he left. Let me see if I have it, and you can see those photos. Let's see if I have it here. No, that's not it. Anyway, keep talking, and if I can find it, I'll share it with you real quick.
Yeah, I was out there Saturday morning early, and it just was beaming with the sun on it, and everything's in flower, and it's just great. I hope the maintenance on it is minimal, and I hope other folks learn to enjoy that kind of a landscape, because it really is.
Where is it
spectacular.
exactly?
It's right in front of the new restroom building there, right next to adjacent to the dog park and the parking lot.
Okay.
Mary, I have a question that's not necessarily related to parks, but I exercise over at the country club. Am I going to be able to get in there when the road construction goes up?
You will be able to get in there. I don't know how, and I know that there'll be detours all over the place, but I do believe that you will be able to get into your area.
Okay, because 2 Fridays ago,
Oh, there it is.
2 Fridays ago, we were going to have dinner over there. We're social members over there. And when I got to halfway down Washington Boulevard, the car's already backed up. So I just made an illegal U-turn and we ate over Adriatic Grill.
Yes. So I am assuming that there will, because people live there, there will be a way to get in there. Will you need to bring a snack and maybe an extra bottle of water? Probably. Might you increase your wellness program and park and walk? Possibly. Or maybe get on one of those e-bikes. So, but anyway, yes, it's going to be a challenge. We've got a lot of big projects coming up, and, you know, it'd be great to stagger them all, but it would take a lot longer, and it's, you know, you have grants and timelines. So, but anyway, here's some of the flowers that Vito was referring to. That was Doug Frazier who helped us design and build that and get that
Great.
implemented. That was sort of a going away gift for him. So,
Yeah, no, looks great.
yeah.
Vito, that's not you sitting on the bench, is it?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
Kind of looks like Vito, does it? Did I say Vito? I meant Doug. Sorry. Yeah. Anyway.
Awesome. So our joint council meeting on Monday, the 28th, and then next regular meeting is July 27th, Tuesday, normal time. And so do you think July, Mary, will be in person, or do you think it'll still be via Zoom?
We can do it in person if we want to. So yeah,
Okay.
we'll be doing it. We can have some of our boards are doing them sort of at a hybrid, and we're sort of learning how that works. I think Linda Farmer and the council is figuring out how that works. And so we will let you know how that's going to work. If it's easier to do it in July as a Zoom meeting, we still can, because, you know, we're not as official as our city council, and that might help us figure out how to do that in the future. We do know that more people can access our meetings if they can Zoom in. You know, our citizens can provide feedback or comments on different topics. So, so we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
I'm going to be out of town, so I would love to do it Zoom. That would be
Oh,
great.
okay. Yeah, good to know.
Yeah, I'll put
I'm
a plug in for Zoom as well.
Okay.
Yep. Whatever works best for the group works for me. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. With that being said, I think we would
Actually,
entertain-
Jason, I have
yeah.
one thing before
come
before
on.
you all go.
sure,
I did
Linda.
want to mention that Monday night at the council meeting, we adopted our council goals officially after like 8 zillion retreats and a whole bunch of talk. And we did put in a task under the transparency goal connected to our desire to see a strategic communications plan built for the city. And we just put a task in there that mentioned that we would also have brand standards and brand
Oh.
guidelines for the city, which is where sign standards would fall under. And so the council has already made its desire known to have consistency across all of its branding opportunities, which include signs.
And Councilmember Farmer, that didn't have an implementation plan assigned to it yet, right? Are you coming back to do
No.
that?
I'm trying to recall how this works. I'm still kind of new.
Yeah,
So
I think that
and it
it's,
starts with a communications plan. So
got it.
it starts further up the food chain.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, but that's good to know. Maybe mentioning that if it comes up, so that now that everybody knows, but that might just help move it up the chain, as in, getting it done a little quicker.
Exactly. Kind of exactly where I was going with that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Yep. Thanks, Linda. All right, y'all. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Sylvia,
I make a
Michael,
motion.
yep. Michael, you get the second. All in
I do.
favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none. Thank you all. We'll see you next Monday, except for Vito. Don't put on your sunscreen, Vito.
Oh my gosh, yeah. See ya.
All right.
Take
Thank
care.
you all.